Welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. I'm Ellis Williams, coming off a 23-13 Browns preseason victory in Jacksonville. I'm joined by Dan Labbe, Scott Patsko, and Mary Kay Cabot. A lot to get to, y'all. Football is back. The Browns looked electric. The defense was flying all over the place. JOK making plays. Donovan Peoples-Jones continuing to prove he's the receiver we saw at camp. Let's just start with going around with observations and first thoughts. Dan, we'll throw it to you. You're there in Jacksonville. What was your take on this Browns team that we've been waiting since January to see?
I just liked how that group that on offense looked like they were ready to play. They were competent. They did what they were supposed to do. I mean, these are not the starters. Odell was not out there. Jarvis was not out there. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt weren't out there. The whole offensive line wasn't out there. And they were going against, it was a mix of Jaguars starters and backups, but there were a lot of starters out there for Jacksonville. And they looked competent. They didn't put a ton of points on the board, but they looked competent. And just, to me, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Mary Kay, you put up a column about him and what Urban Meyer had to say about him. It's just a continuation of what he's done all camp, for him to be the most reliable guy on the field and to be the guy that was making, even though his numbers weren't great tonight, to be the guy that was making the plays for Case Keenum out there. It just speaks to the camp he's had, and I think the year he's setting up to have.
Yeah, we're from the standpoint of the guys that you wanted to make sure you saw tonight. Like we knew the starters weren't going to be out there, so you're looking at the rookies, you're looking at the second-year guys, and they all performed the way you would want them to. Like DPJ had some big catches, and even Case Keenum, ran the offense as vanilla as it was. There were times where it seemed like they were just running the same formation, same play over and over. But he looked good. And, Demetric Felton, you got a long look at him as a receiver tonight. And of course, JOK on defense. All those guys got plenty of action. And I think it was a good night to really kind of assess what they could do.
Yeah, Demetric and JOK are guys I want to get to later. Let's stay on DPJ for a second here. Dan mentioned Mary Kay. You wrote about DPJ after the game. And Mary Kay, anyone who hasn't had a chance to get to the column, we're recording this again right after the game. So do you just want to unpack what you had to say about DPJ and then just combine that with what you saw tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with DPJ, like you guys said, he made some nice catches. The moment never looks too big from him. He's taken his game up a notch in his second season. So good for him. I think he's established himself as the basically now the undisputed third receiver on this football team. I think it's going to be hard for anybody else to overtake him at this point. Anthony Schwartz doesn't have a chance to do it. He's too far behind right now with the hamstring. Rashard Higgins, I just think that even just a little bit of a setback for him with the ankle enabled Donovan Peoples-Jones to sort of step up ahead of him. But I actually thought, and we can expound more on DPJ, but after we talk about him, I think JOK stole the show tonight. That's my biggest takeaway from the night is JOK. I think he stole the show. We all talked about how he was going to be gone. He missed the first 5 practices of training camp. And I wrote a column the day he came back saying that I know that he's not going to have a hard time catching up. I watched every single move that he made in rookie camp and every spring practice. And I watched him come up the learning curve very quickly. And just knowing how smart he is, I really just felt like he was just going to come back gangbusters. And I thought that he was the number one takeaway for me tonight. The way that he went out there, he had 8 tackles, he had a sack. He's the team's best blitzer. He almost blocked a punt, and he just kept going and going and going and played a ton of reps, and he just never let up until the end of the game. So I just think that I thought he was pretty lights out tonight.
Let's pivot to the offense here. And look, obviously a lot of guys resting. You don't see the whole offensive line. Of course, no Odell, no Jarvis, no Baker Mayfield, no Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, no tight ends. I get it. But still, there are a few things I think we can take away. First and foremost, Scott, is Demetric Felton a running back, or are we kidding ourselves?
Yeah, that was my headline. Should we stop pretending he's a running back? they clearly just had a plan to use him as a wide receiver tonight, and he seemed like he was on the field for every play of that first half, and he never once started in the backfield or motioned into the backfield. It was always in the slot or out wide. He ended up with the most targets on the team in the first half. And, I'm guessing we're going to see a game where he's getting more carries, maybe in, the second half of a preseason game. Maybe he's the guy in, the third and final preseason game. But today it was all about wide receiver. And I was kind of charting the personnel groupings. And if you want to count him as a running back, that meant the Browns always had 2 running backs or 2 tight ends for every single play of that first half. Probably now what you're going to see in the regular season, they also threw to running backs 15 times. And I know you're not going to see that. I mean, Andy Janovich is out there catching passes. Johnny Stanton's getting carries. And it was just very, very vanilla and very, let's just get some guys some action and not really do anything that's going to give anything away. We'll try to move the ball, but, it was a lot of the same stuff over and over and just variations on the same theme. And it worked, though. They won.